Let's make it happen.
All right. Today we have on the podcast one of my oldest and best friends. Well, he's still a young guy, but he's one of my best friends, Uriel Carrazco. Udi, what's happening, brother?
Doing good, Normie. How's it going for you?
Great, man. Yeah, thanks so much for being on the podcast. And I know you're in transit now from the Bahamas back to your home base in Sacramento. So appreciate you taking the time.
Absolutely, man. Anytime.
Well, tell us a little bit about your tax firm and what you do.
It's a firm, Carrasco and Associates, and the DBA is Innovative Tax Solutions. Really kind of got started on the heels of me deciding to leave a big accounting outfit called KPMG, which is now one of the big four. It used to be the big five until Enron decided to blow up Arthur Anderson, but that's a whole different story. But anyway, I decided to, literally on the day I got my CPA license in the mail, put in my notice and start my own firm. And I think I was 24 at the time, maybe 25. Seems like a long time ago now. But the idea was really that I was doing a lot of these niche tax saving strategies at KPMG for big gargantuan companies, and yet these programs were really kind of set up for small to medium sized businesses that ironically were doing nothing about it because they didn't have guys like me on their payroll, right?
Okay.
And so the bottom line is that I saw the niche, I saw the opportunity. And I realized that I kind of knew how to do the process from soup to nuts, and that I could build on it, right? And so, like I said, on the day I got my CPA license, I walked into my partner's office and I said, "I'll give you my 2 weeks notice."
Yeah.
He's like, "Well, how much do we have to pay you?" And I said, "A lot." He's like, "Well, how much are you getting somewhere else?" And I said, "0." He goes, "Well, that doesn't sound like a lot." I said, "Well, I know, but you're gonna have to talk me off the ledge here, bro." And anyway, long and short of it was that was definitely the best decision that professionally that I ever made, because it allowed for me to now grow the firm to where it's at today. There's 16 of us, I think, in total at the firm, with a couple other CPAs, accountants, if you will. And we've grown it now where I have my own entity still, Carrasco and Associates, just the initial entity. And then recently I brought in 3 partners and created a separate entity called Carrasco LLP. And that's been going real well as well. I got 3 guys, or 2 guys and a gal that have been with me for a long time, and they're definitely experts in the tax credits and incentives arena. And so they've really stepped up and pitched in to continue to grow the practice. In fact, just this last week we moved our office to Capitol Mall.
Oh, okay.
From 7th Street in downtown Sacramento. So moving on up, as they say, right? I got a corner view of the Wells Fargo building and 5th Street.
Nice.
Can't complain, man. We do some of the accounting, which is monthly book reconciliations and things like that, as well as a lot of corporate tax and some individual tax. So typically, our real go-to, our real niche is for business owners, right?
Yeah.
And so those are the people I can really help out. I've always said that what I do is I make successful people more successful, right?
Okay.
And so the bottom line is if you're running a business, there's just a slew of different things that you could do. Not only the credits and incentive side, but also on the tax and accounting side. There's a slew of things that you can do to put yourself in a much better position. And I've always, been a firm believer that the biggest erosion of anybody's wealth, if you will, is going to be taxation.
Yeah.
Right. And so if you don't pay attention to your taxes and have the right people in your corner to help you, then the accumulation, the year after year after year of overpaying taxes, or for that matter, even worse, right, underpaying taxes and taking all that risk, right, of audit and then penalties and this and that. It's just it's not a very sound move. So anyway, it's a long-winded way of telling you that's kind of what the firm does and what we're all about currently. But we got some pretty big goals and aspirations as to what the things that we want to do, moving forward, especially now that I've brought in 3 partners. So.
Yeah, that's awesome. I love it. I didn't even know that. And you mentioned a few things, but of course, like you said, you do compliance and you file tax returns and do a lot of corporate work. But your real bread and butter and the real niche that's made you so invaluable in the market and also successful is really the tax credits, right? So a lot of people have no idea what those are. Why don't you give a little brief rundown of tax credits and how they could help a average business?
Yeah, so it's like that adage, right? With certain types of things in the tax law and in accounting, if you will, it's like an inch wide and a mile deep, right? And so what ends up happening is you have a lot of these CPAs that are just kind of generalists, right? So typically part of my sales pitch to a client when I go sell tax credits and incentives is that, your CPA is, I'm not looking for his job at all, right? That's all good. You keep your guy. I'm sure he's great, right? But he's your general doctor, if you will. Yeah. I'm your cardiologist, right? Mm-hmm. And so you wouldn't go to your general doctor if he's telling you and recommending that you go to a specialist, right? Yeah. That's what we specialize in, right? Again, it's an inch wide, and what I mean by that is that it's literally just a bullet item in the tax code that says, certain companies are entitled to research and development tax credits, right? And it's like, oh, okay, well, that's a line item on the tax return, but what the heck does that mean? And it's so deep in meaning, right? Yeah. That you require a specialist to come in and dig it up, right? So, to give you kind of the 10,000 foot view of credits and incentives, essentially anything that we go out there to find that is not really become visible at first glance to the eye, and that your CPA is not going to specialize in. Yeah, we can do that for you, and in return, our offering is kind of a no-brainer. Is if we don't do it for you, you pay us nothing, right? So it's all contingency fee based, and so literally when I put $1 in your pocket, that's when we get paid, right? Yeah. But in terms of the tools, if you will, or the credits and incentive programs that are out there, you got everything from hiring-based credits, which basically means if you hire an employee, right, that you could get a tax credit, income tax credit. Okay. So you get the federal work opportunity tax credit, for example, right, as well as the California new employment credit. Both of those are hiring-based credits. And on the federal side, if you hire an employee that was unemployed for a period of time, or was a veteran of the military, right, or maybe was part of a family receiving aid, or even ex-offenses and things of that nature. Mm-hmm. You hire folks like that, you end up getting on the high end, on the federal side, a $9,600 reduction, dollar for dollar, off your Fed tax, right? Wow. And again, if we don't do that for you, you pay us nothing, right? On the state side, it's even more lucrative. You're talking about $85,000 over a 5-year period of time for one employee, right? And so you do the math on that. You have, a construction company, which is one of our biggest industries, or manufacturing or whatever, right? These guys are hiring people day in and day out, right? And so as you hire people and you keep an eye out for, these qualifications, you only get, unfortunately, from the government, you only get 28 days on the federal side and 30 days on the state side. So if you don't got a guy like me going in there and focusing on getting these people qualified, you're literally flushing money down the toilet if you're hiring these folks. Yeah. And I'll tell you that offhand, just by chance, 20% of all employees, regardless of industry, are going to qualify. Wow. Right? And so, it's pretty insane. And then the other thing, are kind of a icing on the cake, if you will, is that, payroll companies do offer, tax credit services. The problem is, though, is that they're jumping over dollars to pay pennies, and even worse, that's what they're doing for their clients, right? Yeah. So they're essentially doing some automated system, right, where the employee at the time they onboard, fill out W-4, I-9 paperwork, things like that, they end up filling out this like little bit IRS style of survey, which is basically French to six-pack jack guy that's working construction. Yeah, right? Yeah, like, of course. What is it, right? And so they have no understanding of how this works. It can affect them negatively. I mean, there's all these fears on top of that. Whereas with our firm, we don't market at all. We get everything by referral. So because of that, we have time to do phone interviews and have our staff talk to the employees and get them educated. And what happens with that is you increase qualification. That puts more dollars in tax credit savings in the client's pockets. And of course, we make a percentage of whatever that number is, right? Yeah. So all in all, I mean, I think credits like that, from there you got research and development credits, which are essentially money's being spent on, any sort of research or development or improvement of a product or process, which clients are doing all the time, right? And that gets you a federal and a state credit with a retroactivity opportunity there of up to 3 years on the federal and 4 years on the state.
Wow.
Which basically means, you got refund dollars that you're sitting on, like literally sitting on, and you just need to know how to get it back. And again, no charge if we fall flat on our face and don't succeed.
And
right?
that's so amazing
one,
because
right?
there's so many, of course, so many business owners, small, medium, large business owners in California and the U.S., and everyone complains, oh my God, it's so expensive to do business, and I have to pay this and that, and taxes, and everything goes up, and insurance, and really, it's just a series of complaints that things are getting harder to do business. But they're literally sitting, like you said, sitting on these tax advantages that they're not utilizing. I mean, a very small percentage of businesses or business owners know about this or even utilize it correctly. So that's the great equalizer, right? And so the average business could come to you and they don't spend $1 unless they're receiving those tax benefits or getting those dollars back.
That's exactly right, man. I mean, it's in that respect, it's why it's a no-brainer. I mean, I've had, pretty much anybody that's in business recognizes that, you're in business to make a profit.
Yeah.
If you're making a profit, you're going to pay taxes unless
Yeah.
you have a way to diminish those taxes, right? So, really, it's a lot of it for us is education too. It's just telling people. In fact, the biggest referral sources, again, we don't market, but the biggest referral sources that we have are CPAs themselves, right? CPAs that get it, right? They go like, hey, listen, you're better at this than I am, and I just want my client to benefit, so I'm going to push my client to go and work with you guys on the credit side, right? Especially because they know that, hey, I'm not trying to infringe on their work, right? And so, anyway, in that respect, it's a pretty good deal.
Yeah, that's fantastic, and then it makes them look like a superstar. So with these tax credits, federal, state, worker-based, all these fun things. I know you have Fortune 500 companies and major, massive firms, but you also have little mom and pop. And so, what is too small for a client to come to you and help? A small real estate broker, a mortgage office, a little mom and pop business that's a LLC. Who is it that you could help?
Honestly, I'll tell you the truth. I think we can pretty much help anybody that's, whether it's a mom and pop shop or, to your point, we do have Fortune 500 companies that we do the credit and incentive work. And the small mom and pop shops, if you will, those guys I can help out more from the compliance side, to be fair, because they don't tend to have a ton of employees. But even some, they do. You got a couple clients that have a small restaurant, for example, and they're hiring qualifiers just like anybody else is, right? So, they're definitely people we can help out on the credit and incentive side as well. But as far as the mom and pop guy, right? I mean, everything from most of those guys, I'll tell you honestly, when they get started running a business, they didn't get the coaching, they didn't get the advice right out the gate. And so they kind of stumble along for the first 2, 3, 4 years and are absolutely overpaying in tax, right? And that's just simple entity structure, right? Like you're, set up as a sole proprietorship, you're paying all kinds of self-employment tax for very little reason, to be honest with you, right? And you're just not aware of all the things that you can even deduct and things like that. So just that initial, coaching of how to be a, self-employed individual, you'd be shocked, man. There's guys that have been doing, for example, guys that you talk to a lot, real estate and mortgage guys that have been doing it for 4, 5, 6 years. They're still running as a sole prop. I'm like, guys, what are we doing here? You have no liability protection, and on top of that, you're overpaying tax, right? And so, anyway, to your question, those guys I could totally help out in that respect as well.
Oh, that's great. Yeah, I mean, I know there's a lot of, with real estate and mortgage, you got a lot of lone wolves, especially with real estate, but there are small offices, medium-sized, but you have to treat your business like a business no matter how big or small you are. And so anyone that comes to you could definitely take advantage of forming the right form of corporation or entity, huh?
You're right. Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, and there's a variety of different ways to skin the cat, right? But ultimately, the point is simple, right? You want to make sure that you, as soon as possible, are set up in a manner where you can set up for success for the future, right?
Yeah.
And it might cost a few bucks to get it done, but ultimately, if you are, trying to do this for the long haul, you got to do it, right? You got to get yourself in a position to do it. So, I'm a firm believer that you start out your foundation, on a good foot, and the way to do that is to I've always said, to get a good CPA and get yourself a good attorney.
Yeah.
You can talk about being a businessman after that.
You need a good CPA, a good attorney, a good bartender, and a good priest, right? That's what you need in life.
Yeah, that's definitely what I need in life.
Yeah.
For sure.
Especially the bartender part, huh?
Oh yeah, for sure.
Well, nice. I love that, and I'll definitely encourage folks who are listening, realtors, loan officers, small business owners, no matter how big or small, to at least check in with you and your staff, because there's probably something you could do to help them, whether that's education or whether that's working with their existing CPA, or it's more, taking them on as a client. So at the end, of course, I'll post how people could get in touch with you. But I wanted to have you on, not just to talk about the tax advantages or the work that your tax firm does, which I love what you do, but also I was always, and to be honest with you, always so impressed and really enamored by the mentality of your success and your story and how hard you work, but really where you came from and where you're at now. So tell us a little bit, it's sort of a stupid general question, but what do you see looking back over your career as the secret to your success?
I think it started really with how talk to mom and dad, to the way they raised us as kids. I think I've come from an immigrant family, right? And
Mm-hmm.
Both my mom and my dad came here as just people trying to find a place to work and to get the family to be in a better spot, right?
And you guys came from where? They came from where?
Mexico, yes. They migrated here from Mexico, and at the time they had had to work their ass off, man, because they had at the time, 5 kids, and my mom was pregnant with me, right, when they migrated over here. So I was the firstborn in this country, and the other kids, honestly, they kind of came in chunks as dad could kind of send money back to bring them over, if you will.
Yeah.
That's what he had to do to get him over here. And so, typical Hispanic family, right? Mom, dad didn't know very much English, so they had to work all the fields and this and that, right? Which, I mean, that's definitely no picnic, So anyway, long story short, I think that's where it all started, man, was just my dad instilling that work ethic in all of us as kids from the get-go. I mean, we all had to have a job. We all had to give money to the family. It wasn't like we got to keep our money, right?
Yeah.
And the bottom line is, like even in high school, I remember him telling me, like, because I wanted to play every sport, right? I want to play football, basketball, soccer, and he's like, you can play whatever you want, but you got to have a job.
Yeah.
Right? So to work that around, bringing in money to the house, do you, and by the way, you need to keep good grades,
Yeah.
or else.
Yeah.
Right? So, it's just, I think that's where it started from. And then, along the way, I've always had this kind of underdog mentality, that why not me type of deal. Right. And so, pressing through college, I went to, as Cal Poly and San Francisco, and, for the first, time I put in an application, like, I can't tell you how many people were like, oh, that's an impossible school to get into, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, I don't think so. Yeah, let's go. Right.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
Went through that, got my degree. And then I just always had this kind of mindset, like at one point or the other, if I just kind of stayed the course and kept grinding, right, that I'd find a way to make it work, man. And so, but I do remember I went to a book signing and actually kind of like a speech deal for the guy. I forget his name, but he wrote the book Millionaire Next Door. Maybe you probably know, but afterwards, I came out and he was in the lobby signing books, and I asked him. I said, "Hey, if there's any advice that you could give a guy who's just starting in business, good or bad, what would it be?" And he's like, that's easy. He goes, I got two of them for you. And I said, oh, okay. And he said, the first one, he's like, is every single day. I don't care if you're on vacation. I don't care if it's a Monday and it's a full work day. But every single day, do something for your business.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter what. Right. But do something. Right. Because at the end of the day, all those little nuggets, right, add up to a big something down the line. So do that. And then he said, and the second thing is understand one thing. And I assure you this will be true. He said, not everyone's money is green. He said, I've become successful, not for all the deals I've taken, but for all the deals I didn't take. I'm like, huh. But that resonated with me, right? Because ultimately, you know, I've turned away a fair amount of business in mine.
Yeah.
I've also taken a fair amount of business in my time that I go, man, this is just a waste of my time. What am I doing here? Right. So, you know, I think that ultimately, to answer your question more directly, I think it's a factor of a few things. You know, having a good upbringing, you know, good mentors type of deal, and beyond that, really, honestly, man, it's just been grinding it, right? You know, and staying on top of things, then trying to make smart decisions, right, along the way. Take your time. You know, don't really rush into things. You know. Don't fall for the shiny thing. All those, you know, bits and pieces of advice. And then I would tell you that the number one thing that that I think for me, I could tell you is you got to surround yourself with just good people. And I'm not even talking about good clients per se or good, you know, business people. I'm talking in general in life, right? Surround yourself with the type of people that are going to support you, that are going to be your biggest cheerleaders, and that you could do the same for them, right? And create that good energy, right? That you know that you need day to day. To be honest with you, I'm a firm believer in energy. I've seen it time and time again. Walk into a meeting, you know, somebody has their arms crossed because they're completely unopen to what I'm going to bring to the table. But by the time I'm done, if I brought in good energy, they're giving me good energy back. Yeah. Right. So, you know, I think that. Those are some of the reasons I would say that, you know, I've been able to get to where things are at now.
Yeah, and I love that advice that, you know, you got from the author of The Millionaire Next Door of all money's not green, right, basically. So you basically don't want to chase every deal, chase every dollar. And that extends to, you know, we're all so busy, just way too many things on our to-do list and just running around doing the best we can. But our time, you know, not investing our time into just everything and chasing, you know, bad deals, trying to work with bad people, not bad people, but people that are going to waste your time or waste your energy. So being really selective with your efforts in business and in life, that's really good advice. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I agree as well, man. I'll tell you honestly, it served me right. That's for sure. Because, now with clients, I mean, they don't know it necessarily, but anytime I go talk to a new client, it's an interview process, man. It's not like I'm just coming in hoping and crossing my fingers that I get the deal. It's like, no, you know, there's only so much time in a day, and if you have the right attitude, the right mentality, you can really make work part of your life, not necessarily feel like work, but if you allow yourself to surround yourself with people that are kind of, you know, negative, whether they're clients, channel partners, friends, family, whatever, then all of a sudden work feels like work, right? And that's just not good, because that's, you know, 8 hours of your day at least, and the other 8 hours are sleeping, and then the 8 hours is fun, right? But, you know, a third of your life you're going to spend in a work environment. If you can't make that fun, that's something that you should really be taking a hard look at, right?
And one thing you definitely do is you work hard, but you play hard, man. You know, and I think that 8-8-8. I think it's more like 12 hours of work, 11 hours of fun, and 1 hour of sleep for you, huh?
Don't tell my secret.
No, man, and also I love, and I brought up, of course, I know your family story and where you came from, and you know how hard your parents worked and how they raised you right, and I wanted to bring that up because I just love it. I think it's really the American dream of you come here and you contribute and you try to make you know, something of yourself and have a business that adds a lot of value to the community, and you do the right things and you can be successful. And there's not many countries in the world that have that glowing opportunity. But I also love that you've always kept that underdog mentality. no matter, and that chip on your shoulder, if you will, no matter, how much success or material trappings or money you've made.
I appreciate that, man. Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, that's also came down from mom and dad. Dad would always say, spend your money on, experiences and food and things of that nature. That's where you want to spend your money at.
Mm.
And the reality is that, when money comes, it changes a whole lot of things, right? But,
Yeah.
for me at least, I've always been a firm believer that, you could use money and make yourself better, right? Or you could just become a bigger a-hole you're just a bigger a-hole with more money, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And so the bottom line is that with me at least, and kind of because I didn't come from money, right? I've always had more of a siding, I guess I should say, with the protection of the preservation of capital.
Yeah.
As opposed to, it's almost like it hurts more to lose $1, right? Yeah. Than it feels great to gain $1,
yeah.
right? And so, I think that for a person who's starting from nothing, if you will, that's really the right attitude and mentality. Because I know you remember, right, back in the day before 2008, right? 7, 6, whatever it was, when everybody who used to be a server or a bartender became a mortgage guy, right?
Yeah.
And all of a sudden was driving around, Mercedes and this and that from,
Udi, you had jackass former house painters that turned realtors and loan officers, and next thing we're driving around in a Mercedes, right? I won't mention any names,
Yeah, one love, bro. Yeah, no, exactly. But the point is that, there's guys that, in spite of that, are able to kind of take a step back and go, okay, hey, this is, there's going to be, peaks and valleys in business, and you got to be ready to weather the storm. I mean, a perfect example of that is, one of the biggest programs we did work on that you're very familiar with was that tax credit, the enterprise zone, right?
Yep. Yep.
Well, all of a sudden, kind of the middle of the night, we get this, text message from a guy who's done some lobbying work for me that goes, hey, they pulled the program. And it's like, holy crap, what do I do now?
Yeah, it's a gut
and
punch.
It's like you either fold or you make lemonade out of lemons, right?
Yeah.
And so the bottom line is that if, in my opinion, I think that if you just, kind of never get too high, never get too low, right, type of deal, and always be methodical about your, business dealings, as well as just do something for your business daily, right?
Yeah.
Then you're going to end up in, over time, that accumulation of hard effort, right, translates into big things, man.
And that's interesting, yeah. When you talked about the crash and then the enterprise zone program going away, it's like any business's success over the long term, or any entrepreneur's success, is going to be really defined by those recessions, those downturns, those when you're getting your ass kicked, when you have challenges. I mean, those are also where the biggest opportunities lie. So, the rough seas is also where 80% of your competition folds up and gets in the fetal position or goes out of business.
Yeah, no, absolutely, man. I mean, you couldn't have said it any better there, right? It's, the true mark, in my opinion, of a businessman is how do you behave when things aren't, all roses, right? How is it that you step up, if you will? It's not about, everyone's going to fall, right? But can you pick yourself up, right? Can you reinvent yourself? Can you look for ways, and a lot of times that requires hard work. That's just the bottom line. And, there's plenty of times for every, Bahamas trip I've taken, I'm also at the office sometimes at 3 a.m, right?
Yeah.
And working midnight, right? So it's not all roses, but how do you behave when the bullets start flying, if you will, right? Yeah. And if you fold because things aren't going your way, right, then that's not a very good mark for success, man. So, I think that ultimately, for at least for myself, I feel that that's one thing that you will always get with me, is that I will outwork most people.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
I'll have my fun too, for sure. I'll let loose, but I will outwork most people. And then beyond that, man, the reward of the money that comes with it, if you will, to me, it's not as big of a reward as the satisfaction of knowing that I'm helping somebody. Right? Yeah, we all got to make a living. It's great to make money, but I can't tell you how good it feels to know that I've taken somebody who's like, for example, even a small mom and pop or a starting real estate agent, and they just got their first deal, right? And they can use me for a half an hour a year because that's all they can afford, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then 4 years down the road, this guy's got 5 employees, right? Running the next corporation, getting monthly books reconciled, and absolutely clocking it and making good, sound business decisions, right? That makes me feel good, right? That makes me feel like that's what I sought out to do, to make successful people, like-minded people, more successful.
Yeah,
right?
and when you say successful, it doesn't mean that they have to come to you with a bunch of money, right? It's that they have the mindset of they want to add value, they want to grow their business, they want something better for their family, they want to be, that it's the mindset that's there, and they're willing to be coached and willing to take your advice, huh?
Exactly right, man. Exactly right.
Oh, that's awesome, man. And I love the, like I keep saying, the underdog mentality. And I realize now when you're talking about you have to enjoy work and who you're with and, how you define happiness, you really treat your business as a team sport. It occurs to me now, you're in there every day and you're playing a football game, you're playing a basketball game. And, I've seen you playing point guard. Your skills are all right. You're all right out there, Udi, You need to pass a little bit more, you're a bit of a chucker, you're a little bit of a gunner, but that's all right. But no, I mean, you treat your business like a team sport, and when you're down by 5 points in the fourth quarter, you don't fold up like a little bitch. You're like, all right, let's fight. This is what we need to do to win. Let's go harder. This is the game plan. And you have fun with it. And that's really, I think, a huge part of your success.
Yeah, I would agree with that, man. I mean, I think that, when you first get started in a business, you just got yourself, right? So you are your team, right? But the mark of a true leader, as you know, is somebody that can make others around him or her better, right? Yeah. And so, I'll tell you honestly that it's very easy once you, become a little more successful to get this kind of Superman mentality, right? Where you're like, you can't delegate because nobody can do it as good as you type of deal, right? But ultimately, that to me, I think is a recipe for disaster, right? Because what that's going to create as a business owner is some resentment, right, towards the people that you've hired, right? And that's not a good thing. So one of the things that even myself that I'm trying to learn to do better is to really just be able to delegate, but also to be able to mentor these guys and make them feel, good about what it is that they're doing, right? And how do I just, kind of take myself out of the equation a little bit, but still make sure it gets done right, right?
Yeah.
It's a tough balance, but to your point about a team. Yeah, man, it takes a village to raise a child, right? Type of deal, and I'm a firm believer in that, man. That you gotta get your troops lined up. You gotta make sure that they understand that we all need to be on the same team right here, and we're all going towards a common goal. And so that to me is the most important thing of all in order to succeed in business, especially small business. Max, I'll tell you, small businesses are the most fragile in the sense that if you have a key employee, right, and you lose an employee, it can be very, very damaging, sometimes to the point where you can't ever recover, right?
Yeah.
But at least not recover for a while. And that takes a lot of that wind out of your sails, man. So you got to continue to encourage, your team and try as hard as you can not to get frustrated when things don't go exactly like you want them to go.
Yeah. That's awesome. And yeah, Udi, super appreciate your time. As we wrap this up, I'm going to give you a chance at the end to tell the listeners and the viewers how to get in contact with you and how to reach you. But I always end up with 3 questions specifically for each guest. So I got 3 good questions here for you, if you don't mind. And the first one is very, very difficult. What's your theme music, man? What's your pump me up song that you play in your car or at the gym or something like that? What's your jam, bro?
Oh man, well, I'm a classic Hispanic guy, dude. So I love me some mariachi music, man. So it's typically Vicente Fernandez, man. When I'm going to go in and sell a deal. When it's a big deal, I wear this one red tie that my dad gave me, man. So it's my closing tie. So the matador ties, I like to say. No, yeah, right as the state.
Nice, man.
Theme music would definitely be El Rey or Hermoso Cariño or something, cool like that. That's heartfelt and deep.
Oh, that's awesome, man. You have your ritual there, and Vicente Fernandez, huh? That's awesome.
Vicente Fernandez is the man, for sure.
Is he the one that sang Aya?
Yeah, I'm one of the guys that sang that. Yeah, I'm also another guy that sang that, but just not as well as he did.
Yeah, ain't that the truth, huh? All right, cool. Question number 2. This one's a little harder. Which is more important, hard work, talent, or networking?
I think that's an easy one for me. I think hard work for sure. I think that talent is great. Don't get it wrong, but I'll take a guy that can work his ass off over all the credentials, in the world, right?
Yeah.
And so for me, hard work is definitely number one. As far as your networking, I think networking can become a byproduct out of working hard, right? Especially in the accounting world, man. I mean, it can be a grind, and you talk to any CPA that has been through a tax season, and they'll tell you how much of a grind it can be, right? So, to me, it wouldn't matter if you had, the Kobe Bryant of the accounting world, right? In terms of talent, if they're checking out at 5, that doesn't feel very good, right? Whereas if you got a guy that's there grinding it with you, that to me goes so far, not only obviously for the business owner, but for that person themselves, that they're dependable, they're reliable, and that's really ultimately what you want. You want somebody that is going to find a way to get the job taken care of and work hard, get you there for sure.
Yeah, awesome, man. And last question, this is a good one. What advice, if you were having a beer with 20-year-old Uriel Carrazco, what advice would you give your younger self?
The first thing I would tell Uriel Carrazco, young guy, is go travel more with Norm. That would be the number one thing I would say.
I like that advice.
No, man. Yeah, no, man. I would tell you that what I would say is enjoy the ride, right? Because the bottom line is when I got started at 25, I was wet behind the ears, and I had no idea how to run a business or be a business owner, right? And what that came with, right? So I didn't quite understand, everything that I was going to, kind of go through, right?
Yeah.
Like the whole blood, sweat, tears deal.
Yeah.
But looking back, if I have any one regret, was that, yes, for as much as I, was always of the mindset, like you got to balance life and travel and enjoy it. And, we had our adventures, Costa Rica, Nicaragua, Thailand, and this and that. But
yeah.
Bottom line is that you probably remember, man, where, even then I was on my laptop every morning.
Yep.
Right. And I'm working or I'm on my phone or this and that. And so I guess, that was part of that feeling for me of I needed to make sure I did something for my business every day.
Yeah.
But even if you are doing something for your business every day, you gotta enjoy, your days, right?
Yeah.
You just have to. You can't let something that's related to business impact your life in a manner that's destructive in other areas. In fact, similar to your question, but I got a question from one of my young guys about, how do you view your life success, right? And I said to him, look, man, to me, life is composed of 4 different quadrants, right?
Mm-hmm.
What I mean by that is quadrant 1 is going to be your business life or your school life, right?
Mm-hmm.
So what you do there. Quadrant 2 is going to be your relationship that you have with your significant other, right? So whether that's your spouse, whether that's your girlfriend, or whatever, right? That is a big part of your life, right? Then quadrant 3 is a relationship you have with your friends and your family, right? Mm-hmm. How are those relationships? How does that feel, right? And then finally, quadrant 4 is a relationship you have with yourself, right?
Yeah. Wow.
Are you spiritual? Are you, do you take care of yourself, hit the gym? Do you eat well, right? Do you take time to meditate, things of that nature? So those are your 4 quadrants, right? Mm-hmm. And what I said to him, I said, if you fuck one up royally, right, it's still 75%, right?
Yeah.
So C's get degrees, bro. What I'm trying to tell you is don't let one bad thing bleed into your other quadrant, right? So if you're having a shitty day at work, okay, but that's just 25%. You could still go home, be with your wife, enjoy, a dinner with friends, right? And meditate at the end of the day, and you still pass the class.
Wow.
Just don't let it bleed all over the place. Because the second you do that, it becomes a train wreck, and then it's so tough to get out of that hole, right? And so anyway, to your, kind of question, I kind of went a little bit off on a tangent there, but the bottom line is that's how I kind of view it.
Oh, that's awesome. I absolutely love that analogy of the 4 quadrants. And like you said, it's too many people, poison their own well with one drop, right? Work's not going well, and they take it out on this and that, and then they're, on the couch instead of at the gym, and it's a downward spiral. Great advice to younger Udi. And Udi, I absolutely love it. It was great having you on the podcast. How can anyone listening, small business owner, big business owner, realtor, lender, who wants some tax work or advice, how could they get in touch with you?
Yeah, real easy, man. Our website is www.carrazco.com, spelled CARRAZCO.com. All of our contact info is there. A ton of information on there. It's mainly with respect to credits and incentives, but they can always call our office direct too. I forget what our 800 number is, but it's our direct office line in Sacramento is 916-442-2519. And whether they talk to me or they talk to one of the other guys, we could certainly point them in the right direction. And at least, I typically do consultations, whether it's just a quick call over the phone just to hear what people got going on. And then after that, if it's a fit, then good, let's make it happen. But there's a couple of ways and of course they can always email me as well. Probably easier to make the call just because I'm always, on the go, if you will. So it might take a day or two for me to return the email, but my email is viewcarrazco@carrazco.com. So any one of those will work to get a hold of us.
Awesome. Uriel Carrazco, much love, brother. Thank you so much for being on the podcast. Really appreciate it.
All right. I normally miss you, bro. Can't wait to hang out with you here soon, man.
You got it.